It's hard for people to build just one company, and you have built 200.
I had a 10-year contract from the president of the country. I had effectively a $40 million net profit per year, or a $400 million contract, because I was tied to issuing e-visas to the visitors to Vietnam, of which there were 16.5 million back then. Never actually had a job before. I didn't want a job, no matter how lucrative it could be. I wanted to be self-empowered.
When something like that happens, like LAPD, COVID, or such adversities, do you feel fear first or calculation?
Ideas are as good as the paper that they're written on, which means somebody wants to pay you for it. That's the only reason you have a successful business or not.
You have now crossed $1 billion in unsecured funding. What do most founders still completely misunderstand about capital?
Big dreams don't come quietly.
They demand risk.
They demand fire. They demand transformation. Welcome to The Corporate Life, Billion-Dollar Conversations. Hosted by Hina Siddiqui, CEO and founder of Corporate Influence Media, creator of Capital Stage Credibility Positioning, 4-time Global Award winner, featured across more than 700 global outlets, and heard in 94 countries. Join us as we sit with tech CEOs, multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs, and leading investors, the people building what's next. Here, success isn't a headline. It's a human story. The turning points, reinventions, failures, breakthroughs, and bold decisions that change everything. Because every life is a movie, and you're the star of yours.
Peter, 200 businesses, it's not a resume, it's personality type. What was already in you before the first company ever existed?
Gosh, I've always moved to a different drummer. My family's all very corporate. We were raised in New Canaan, Connecticut. Everyone was schooled at Ivies and equivalent. And I just went a different way. I wasn't satisfied with the status quo. I didn't want a job, no matter how lucrative it could be. I wanted to be self-empowered. And it's not easy when you're a young kid and you're going against the grain of a very conservative, very successful family. But that's the path I chose, and I've stuck to it. And actually, I'm 69 years old. I've never actually had a job before, never worked for anyone else or collected a paycheck. And I think that's a benefit. I'm a true entrepreneur who understands fellow entrepreneurs. And my most successful business ventures have involved in me acquiring access to funding to help my fellow entrepreneurs, because that's the hardest thing to do out there. The business is tough anyway. It's particularly tough, even for someone like me. After 50 years, we get disappointed all the time. You have to be able to pick yourself off the floor and just get out there and start punching your way back in. And I got to tell you, sometimes it's difficult, Hina, to pick yourself off the floor and do it, because we don't have a lot of support for entrepreneurs in this country or the world, actually, which is really foolish, because these large, successful companies come out of the brainchild and blood, sweat, and tears of entrepreneurs like myself. They don't just pop out fully formed, making their shareholders and making millions and billions of dollars. So we have to struggle every day, not only to get the business started, but to keep it afloat. And we have to be able to bob and weave and pivot. That's really important. I'm going through a situation today where I've created a really remarkable funding program, and I've tested it and it works. But because of the tightening financial markets out there, due to the repercussions from wars in Iran or this or that or anything else, the banks pucker up and they don't release money, and it's more difficult to get funding today than ever before. But
Yeah.
we just keep pushing ahead, and thank goodness I've got a small but very effective team that helped me to navigate those very treacherous waters. And so that's it. That's it. I've always gone by the slogan, ready, fire, aim, which truly is the story of my life. I pick a goal, I figure out how to get there, I do the workarounds to get there, and I just try it rather than talk about it or
It's
study it.
interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's hard for people to build just one company. and you have built 200. That makes a lot of difference, and that takes a lot of courage. And I I agree with you. Entrepreneurship is not an easy journey, though people glorify it a lot of times.
Because we
But
only
it's,
hear about the success stories. And
yeah, yeah. They think that it's
it-
overnight success, but then the blood, the sweat, the tear like that goes into it. Nobody just talks about that.
right. If you look at entrepreneurship, not as necessary just the financial gains and all that good stuff and fame and fortune, all that rah rah stuff. You look at it as freedom. When you earn money on your own and you're not dependent upon another person to give you a paycheck or give you all of the benefits and life insurance and health insurance, when you look at it removed, the bottom line is entrepreneurship is actually freedom. And that's what people are seeking, the freedom to make their own choices, make their own living. They're not impeded by artificial ceilings from employers. You know, here's the thing, I don't like to consider myself an employer. At one time in a past life, I had 160 employees. And honest to God, it was like walking into a big koi fish pond. You know what koi fish are? They're like this, their mouths are going like this to get fed. Well, that's what I felt. You put all my employees and they all had koi fish heads and they're all doing this. I want something from you. If it's not money, it's direction, it's this. That I'm not built to manage people. I'm built to invent, to come up with a way to capitalize and to move forward and try a business. Then what I truly love is partnering up with people who have a vested interest, who earn their money from me, for instance, actually as a result of helping me to make that business venture successful. Out of the 200 ventures, and that's just an estimate, by the way, I don't have any idea. Could be more. I don't think it's less because I start businesses like people put on their shoes. I see I see an opportunity before people even know there is one out there. And then I move to see if it's feasible and I throw up what do you call those things? Not a website, but a landing page, and I create a plan and I have content and I market it to see if I have any bites because you really don't have a business unless someone pays you for it. And then you modify from there. Then you throw in the resources and the additional activity. But many of these businesses start off as one thing. And then along the way, I see other opportunities that are even better. I don't necessarily just shut down the idea I first started with, but I don't focus my energies because the only thing you don't have an abundance of is time. So you have to look at your time as a diminishing asset that disappears. So you have to focus your energies on what is the greatest return of investment on your time.
Yeah. And maybe what is most important at that point in time? Because right now you can say that you have money, so time is the most important thing for you. But there are people who don't have money as they're just starting their business, they're just starting up, like the startups, the AI thing that's going on a lot these days. So when they don't have money, then they would just, trade their time with money. So that becomes the most important thing for them. What do you think?
Well, you know, no guts, no glory. If you don't try it, you'll never know. And you'll have
Yes.
regrets your whole life.
Hmm.
Like woulda, shoulda, coulda, if. I don't even use those words. But I can't tell you how many people have just occupied all their energy at overthinking what they're trying to do. If you have a good idea, then for God's sakes, try it and see if anybody else thinks it's a good idea too. You're going to need customers in order to benefit. And I get the whole thing about not having money. I get that. I mean, my God, the ups and downs over 50 years of entrepreneurship have been very significant, but we're not talking about me losing a little bit of money when things don't work out. We're talking about losing hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. For instance, in COVID, I had several very large businesses get cratered that represented literally hundreds of millions of dollars. And they were completely wiped off the face of the earth. I'm still recovering from COVID, as are many, many people. But,
Yeah.
like I said, if I don't try it, I'll always regret it. And I have enough contacts and enough experience just to try whatever's on my mind. And then I kind of put the pieces together or find a partner. There's always some way to make it work. And it doesn't have to be a completely finished project and perfect. It could be half-assed, but half-assed is better than no-ass, because if you don't try, you don't know. So
Yes.
I'm constantly being besieged by people. I get over 200 emails a day. I have 3 posts on LinkedIn that generate over 100,000 viewers a week.
Okay.
And they're always reaching out to me with this idea or that. They're also trying to sell me things all the time. That's kind of a pain. If I could figure out how to monetize people trying to sell me things, that would be a whole other business on itself. So I always am trying
Yeah.
to think out of the box. I live outside the box. I've never done
That's
anything normal in my
interesting.
life, and I've never taken no as a no, meaning there's got to be a way around it. Hell, had I listened to people that say, "Oh, you can't do that," where would I be? I'd have a job, have 2.2 children, and live in the suburbs somewhere. But instead, I've never had a job. I've made millions and millions of dollars since I was a teenager. I did get married. I didn't work out very well, but we're best friends 30 years after my divorce. I have 2 beautiful daughters that gave me 10 magnificent grandchildren. That's my goal. I want to pay for all of their further educations. What better way to spend a fortune than to take care of your progeny and relieve my children of the onus
Yeah.
of trying to educate 10 children? It's a big deal. So I'm always looking for different ways, for different opportunities, but I make my opportunities with the material that I have. For instance, you're in Dubai, never been there, don't really have any intention of going anywhere near the Middle East, in all honesty, but it's sort of like, I'd love to talk to you more. Maybe you have some business ideas. Maybe you have some business people that would benefit from talking to me. Maybe your podcast listeners could benefit from what I have to offer from my perspective. Because if you look at me, I'm what's known as a pure blood entrepreneur, like a pure blood vampire, meaning there's no mix. I never started working for someone else, so I wasn't tainted by that employer-employee mentality. They can't do anything. They freeze themselves out. I'll give you an example. So I entered the United States Army at 17, which was
Okay.
completely contrary to anything my family done. Even though my father had been in the Navy, World War II, he's one of the last survivors of Iwo Jima. He fought with the Marines, even though he was a Navy corpsman. And every year, Discovery Channel does a special where he's featured with 6 other warriors that went back to the anniversary of Iwo Jima, which was incredible. I never realized what he went through as a teenager defending our country and the world. It was incredible. Everyone has great experiences, but what it is I had gone into the military. I was preparing to go over to Vietnam or Cambodia or wherever we were fighting at that point. I went through all my
Yeah.
training. I went through jump school a different way. And I've been people try to thwart me because they take the path of least resistance. Well, that's exactly the opposite of entrepreneurship. It is a lot of resistance. There
There's
are
a lot of
people,
resistance. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there are people that fault you because you're successful or not successful or whatever other reason. They blame you for their own inadequacies. And I just don't pay any attention. I just march
It's
forward.
okay. Exactly. Yeah. Because if you don't have that thick skin, then I think you cannot stay in the game.
100%. If you give up too much, the only way you actually lose as an entrepreneur is if you give up. You can change, you can pivot. That's part of your success.
Yeah.
I mean, many great companies started off as something else until they figured out what worked best.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And
wasn't Amazon a bookstore?
mm,
Wasn't it an online bookstore originally? And now it's the largest, most successful company in the
yeah,
world.
yeah.
That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when you
That's a
put,
way. That's a journey. I mean,
yeah,
you refine, you get to the point where you actually align with what works for you. You may be experimenting with a few ideas before getting into what exactly is it that is your zone of genius or your superpowers, that where you can actually make difference and add value.
Well, I recognize opportunity before most people even have a clue it even exists there. I
Yeah.
see a way to solve it for profit. I see a problem that I can correct. And then if I'm successful and put the money into it and put the work behind it, it becomes a success. It would never have a chance if it didn't get up to bat, if you didn't ever try it.
Yeah. So you had a luxury group home concept ready in Phoenix and then COVID hit. Or what did that moment feel like when the world shut down and took the business with it?
It was absolutely a disaster. I had 3 10-bedroom, 10-bath homes built out as luxury group homes
Yeah.
in a retirement community. It was a perfect model. I'm getting ready to do the grand opening. COVID hit. No one knew what COVID was, but I could see very clearly that it was going to affect my population. So I thought I'd weather the storm. Well, we know how that worked out. I lost millions on those homes, and it was a terrible. I had also created a relationship with the country of Vietnam. Coincidentally, it had already started. I had a 10-year contract from the president of the country. I had effectively a $40 million net profit per year, or a $400 million contract, because I was tied to issuing e-visas to the visitors to Vietnam, of which there were 16.5 million back then every year. And I was paid $2.50 per e-visa because of the connections and the deal I put together. Well, I got 1 year under my belt. Then COVID hit. The country got closed down.
Yeah.
The president who signed my contract for 10 years got jailed for corruption. Well, that
Okay.
was the end of that business. And I can't even tell you how many other things I lost, because I don't fear loss. I
Yeah.
fear not getting back up again to start something. You have to have some marbles to play with. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of marbles over COVID, as millions of other people do, but never stopped.
Never stop. Yeah. And then the LAPD showed up, the Los Angeles Police Department.
Oh, that was at my cannabis church that
Church.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
bankrolled. It was
Yeah.
a legitimate church that was ordained. It was legally a church, believe it or not. And we copied the Catholic, of which I am one, their sacraments, which were in this case cannabis products. And there were members of the denomination. So I could actually get donations in the cannabis product, or donations for the cannabis products that were 1/3 of the cost of the traditional licensed, all that good stuff. And it actually followed all of the steps. It had a nonprofit attached to it. It was a recognized church, and I had 6,000 members. And you're right, LAPD showed up like literally 3 days after I took over the operation. That was the end of that, because all of a sudden now I had to come up with all the money to bail out all my employees. They weren't doing anything wrong. It turns out it was a complete mistake. The LAPD hit the wrong place, but it doesn't make up for the repercussions that occur when law enforcement shows up on your door and shuts down your
Yeah.
operation. You know, I mean, it is what it is. There's been so many instances over the years. My first official business was on Nantucket Island at the age of 19. That was a result of my business plan at the University of Virginia, which was paid for by the military. And I did everything right. And I opened up on Nantucket Island. I had 15 mopeds I imported from Austria to rent. I had a dirt lot I rented with a popcorn stand. And I had 15 little mopeds that I paid for with hazardous duty pay that I earned jumping out of planes in the military. And about a week into my business, it was making more money I've ever seen in my life. A marshal came over that was a Nantucket town marshal, and he issued me a cease and desist order. And he said, mopeds can't be rented on Nantucket. I go, since when? I started the business. There was no law. And he goes, since last night's council meeting. Well, I looked at the complaint. It turns out that the mayor of Nantucket owned the biggest bicycle rental shop that he inherited from his grandfather. I was stepping on toes. They figured they'd just bully me out of business. They didn't meet me before. I don't do well. If you're gonna come at me, you better make sure I don't get back up again. And I lucked out. My landlord liked, he gave me his attorney. I fought them. I beat the pants off them and had a very successful business. But you talk about adversity, honing your skills, as you benefit from that as long as you get back up again. I could have quit. I could have gone with my tail between my legs, lost the only money I had ever had, which was $5,000 from the military exercise. But instead I stuck to it, lucked out, got a great lawyer, beat the pants off Nantucket. Heck, it even made the Wall Street Journal. At Nantucket was so mad at my moped business and the fact that I was beating them in court that they wanted to secede from the United States. Oh, well, they didn't secede. I did well, and that became my first really successful business.
So, when something like that happens, like LAPD, COVID, or such adversities, do you feel fear first or calculation? Do you calculate like
No,
what
I
you
don't.
know?
I do. I should probably be more strategic, but some of these things you can't even guess it could possibly happen, and you can't prevent bad things happening to you. You just can't. I'll give you an example. I'm in a very interesting situation in my business right now. I've come up with a remarkably successful, unique plan of action. But I've unfortunately been the victim from theft and hostilities from people that I were insiders, and it cost me a lot of money. And I could sit there and say, "Oh, woe is me," or just sue everybody. That's not the answer. The answer is to pick yourself up, dust yourself up, find out what you did wrong, try it again a different way,
Learn the
or try
lesson.
something entirely new. You just never quit. That is the
Mm.
whole key to success. You
Yeah.
never quit.
So, how did all that chaos eventually turn into Burns funding?
I created Burns Funding because I noticed that my fellow entrepreneurs simply couldn't obtain any money to start their businesses or expand their businesses. Banks are never going to be our friend, no matter what their advertising says. And we had to figure it out on my own. So what I did is I came up with really good alternate financing methodologies. And at first, I would simply refer people to other resources that I had gathered over the years. After 50 years in business, you have quite a Rolodex, right? When I'm dating myself, they don't even have Rolodexes anymore, but I've got 30,000 first connections on LinkedIn, and all organic. Everything's organic. I don't market per se. I am going to come up with a marketing plan that I'm just starting right now because this new funding operation that I have is really remarkable. So what happened was I simply just kept kicking back and figuring it all out, figuring out how to do workarounds, figuring out how to dust myself off the ground, and that's it.
So, you have now crossed $1 billion in unsecured funding. What do most founders still completely misunderstand about capital? What do you think?
They don't understand that they're going to have to make concessions and change their thought process in how to obtain capital. There aren't people waiting with bated breath on the genius idea that looks good on a piece of paper or a bar napkin, and all of a sudden they're going to jump in and give you a bunch of money. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Unless you have skin in the game, you're never going to get anybody interested anyway. And if they are interested, you got to watch out because they'll take your damn business. An angel is really a devil investor a lot of times. If you go outside your circle of trusted people like friends and family and have a complete stranger take a look at your business and it happens to be really good, you may end up waking up and not even own any of your business anymore and you work for them. And that's what people don't understand. Money does not come free, and it is not easy to obtain. So you have to think out of the box when you're thinking about funding your business. I've had so many opportunities, so many different ways that I've tested. Some work, most don't, but that doesn't mean you can't try.
Yeah. So as I see that, I meet a lot of people like AI founders and SaaS founders, and I see that they have good product ideas, but then they don't know how to make it a business because the moment you ask them that, how does it first 100,000 come in the business once the product is in the market. They have no clue. So what do you think? What these people are doing wrong, which investors, look specifically before they fund any business of like that?
Well, for one thing, the entrepreneur might be a good idea man and may actually have technical skills necessary for the success of their business. They have to seek a counterpart, a mentor, if you will, who's actually a business person, a man or woman that has experience that the angel investors will look towards, not just the owner, not just the inventor, but the actual person that's going to manage the money. Because when they put their money into a venture or a bank or anyone puts their money into a venture, you sure better have the answers, and you sure have it delivered by a competent individual that can assist you to make your business a success. Otherwise, you don't have a chance in hell.
Yeah, that's true. You know, this is your story is a big inspiration. You have started, lost, rebuilt, and scaled across widely different industries. It's interesting. So, at this point, do you trust instinct more or pattern recognition?
Good question. I do know my so-called superpower is to look at something and very quickly analyze it for profit potential.
Mm.
And then I kind of figure out how to put the pieces together. I'm a strategic thinker, but it's combined with ready, fire, aim. You push the, if I see something that looks good, I just go. I don't have to have all the information. I don't have to, these people drive me insane, perfecting their business plans. No one cares. It's either going to work or it's not. You're going to test it or it's not. You learn by doing, not by talking about it or reading about it. That's what got me. I got into entrepreneurship education years ago. I was astounded that these so-called business professors could be teaching these young minds, charging $100,000 a year in tuition and all this other kind of stuff in these great schools. The professors didn't have a friggin' clue. They were so busy holding on for dear life to get tenured that they simply read from a book. They didn't have any lifetime experience. You can't do that. You gotta talk to people that have actually been there and done that. You gotta join groups of entrepreneurs. You gotta interact with people. You gotta learn by listening and then taking advice or not, but at least hearing it out. And then if you have the passion, you'll get something done. It might not come out perfectly. It might be really messy, but it's yours. You start a
Yeah.
business, you own it. And now your future is dictated on how you have that business run, not by if you are susceptible to layoffs and or all of a sudden the market changes. I mean, that's where you gotta have a number of things going on or able to start to go on if the first things that you're starting don't work. I didn't sit there and just lick my wounds when I lost millions of dollars on 3 10-bedroom, 10-bath houses. I didn't lick my wounds because the LAPD decided to hit the wrong place and it completely caused a firebomb, or when the country of Vietnam, their president got thrown in jail and COVID closed the country. But you know what? I did it. I did, and I'll continue to do it as long as I have breath in me. I don't care what it's going to take. You don't trespass on other people, but you do what's best. You don't quit. That's it. If your answer of true success is the only way you actually lose is if you quit and give up. That's not in my.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Get ready for the ultimate challenge, this or that. Choose fast, trust your instincts, and let's go.
Now, Peter, we'll just have some fun. I will play a game with you. It's called This or That. And I'll give you two choices. You just need to instinctively pick one, and that's it. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Build it or buy it?
Build it.
Pattern recognition or gut instinct?
Good instinct.
Big idea or timing?
Timing.
Burnout or boredom?
Burnout.
Equity or control?
Control.
Fast cash or long game?
Fast cash.
COVID collapse or LAPD raid?
Good question. LAPD raid.
The founder who pivots or the founder who persists?
Persists.
Looking successful or actually liquid?
Actually liquid.
Fund the dream or kill it early?
Kill it early.
Build 200 or build one giant one?
200.
A business that shocks people or the one that bores them but prints money?
Attracts people.
Great, you played well. I love that. It was pretty fast.
Great. Well, I look forward to watching this and
Yeah,
helping
so
any of the people that watch your podcasts. I love to help people, and
we're not done yet. I would like to ask you this question. If your life was a movie, which every life is, so what is the title of that movie?
Ready, Fire, Aim, the story of Peter Burns.
Yeah, that's interesting. Would you like to say a couple sentences about it?
Sure. I've been approached dozens of times to write a book. My family happens to be in the movie industry. One of my younger brothers bought Lionsgate Entertainment 20 years ago. He was an investment banker, was interested in movies, and now Lionsgate Entertainment is the largest film and entertainment company in the world. And I've always thought my life is a combination of Wolf in Wall Street, Catch Me If You Can, and there was one other one, Risky
Interesting.
Business.
I love that
Those
movie.
3 businesses, and that's me.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting, Peter. And what does every founder listening right now need to stop lying to themselves about?
That they think their idea is the greatest thing in the world and everyone thinks so too. That's a bunch of hooey. Unless you have someone that buys your product or service, you don't really have a business. You may have an idea. Ideas are as good as the paper that they're written on. Not much. You have to actuate it. You have to take it to the next step and see if it is economically viable, which means somebody wants to pay you for it. That's the only reason you have a successful business or not.
I 100% agree with that. For those who would like to follow the rest of your movie, how can they do that?
Have them go to burnsfunding.com, see my latest adventure in finances, see if indeed we may be of help to them. But you can also book a call with me. It's half hour. I book between 5 and 12 calls a day like this. And I have a discovery call. And if the individual has a business or wants to have a business and needs funding, which all businesses do, you can get pre-qualified with a button on that website. There's no impact on your credit. And you book a call with me. Then we have a discussion. You can ask me anything you want. I'll answer as best I can. I got a lot of miles on this carcass, and I'm happy to share.
That's really interesting. And thank you for your time today. I really loved this conversation today.
Well, great. I really appreciate the opportunity, Hina. And you let me know whatever I can do to help you.
Thank you.
This is The Corporate Life. More stories, more insight, more truth. Until the next episode, stay curious. Don't forget to subscribe.